Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story about a toxic manager that our OP had a chance to work with, or rather was unlucky enough to work with. But every story should have a cherry on top, which is where our OP helped. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Ask me to work after my shift without pay and insult me? Okay. I worked at Dairy Queen a while back where one of my managers was a complete B. I loved the rest of my crew for the most part, but there was one manager who had it out for me. To sum up where they crossed the line, I had 2 ingrown nails on both of my feet and had surgery right before a fundraiser. I requested the days off 1 month in advance, and it got denied because you can't request fundraisers or holidays off. I told her multiple times I couldn't work because I'd be fresh out of surgery the next day. I didn't show up, and I came back a few days later to her telling me to sign a write-up form. Like hell I'm going to sign that. Brought it to my supervisor and had it waived, along with getting the manager in trouble for pulling something that petty. Then the next fundraiser comes around. There was a constant banter about, there's a fundraiser on this day, don't schedule a surgery again. I worked my butt off during the whole shift, all the while getting complaints from her about how messy I was getting during the 4-hour rush. Whatever. Let's see you do better. End of my shift rolls around and everybody's bracing for the dinner rush. We're prepping like crazy. I do everything as quick as I can and clock out. As I'm heading out the door, she says, "Can you go to the grocery store and buy cheese for me, or do you have a 4 o'clock surgery plan today?" "Sure, I can do that. Buy $30 worth of cheese?" "You got it." Come back after that and saw the anger in her eyes as she realized she'd be spending the next hour unwrapping $30 worth of individual processed cheese slices. I hope that manager doesn't have the power to fire you. What a jerk. And our second story. The Crazy Pretzel Lady. A little while ago, a coworker of mine placed an order for an unsalted pretzel for a woman who came off as nice in the begging. Little did we know, she was full-blown nuts. Also, keep in mind that we work at a movie theater in the concession area. Main people in this tale will include Crazy Pretzel Lady equals Martha, me equals me, my coworkers as C1 and C2, and last but not least, my manager as manager. C1. Hi, how can I help you today? Martha. Yes, I like 2 small popcorn, a large drink, and 1 unsalted pretzel. C1. Will you like to make those 2 small popcorn a large because it's cheaper that way? Martha. Yes, thank you for letting me know. That's very kind of you. Also remember, no salt on the pretzel. C1. No problem, and I won't forget. A few moments later, coworker 1, C1, goes and makes the order just as she asks. When C1 gets back to the register to give Martha her order, she sees that the pretzel does not look like the one on the display and walks off. A few seconds later, she walks over to my other coworker's, C2, line and cuts everyone, screaming at him that her pretzel is raw and that C1 didn't cook it right. Martha, screaming at the top of her lungs, "This pretzel doesn't look like the one on display. It's raw, and the color doesn't look as dark as it does on the display." C2. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you'll have to take that up with C1 since I can't offer you a refund on my register since I didn't make the order. Martha. Don't tell me what you can and can't do. I came over to you to help me, not C1. C2. Ma'am, you cut my whole line. These people have been waiting for a long time. You can't cut them. Please see C1 about the order. Me. I cut into their conversation. You know what, ma'am? I'll get you the manager. I go and get the manager and tell them what's wrong. Since they're busy with another jerk customer, they tell me they'll be over in less than 10 minutes. Then I go back to the concession area into her flipping out even harder than before. Martha, now cutting C1's line, "Give me my money back. This is raw, off-colored, mushy, and doesn't look like the one on the display. I want it to look like the one on the damn picture in the display. It's false advertisement. You need to make it like the display." C1. I would give you your money back, but you paid on a credit card, and we need a manager to come refund it on your card for you. If we do a cash refund, the banks and other money-related things will be off, so that's not an option. Martha, okay. Huff, puff. I can wait. While she was waiting, she took it into her liberty to go up to the other customers and tell them her problems with her order, running around the theater lobby, screaming at people like a nut how we're scam artists and they shouldn't order pretzels. I overheard a few customers telling her to go away, she's crazy, they don't care, just go home. No one here wants to hear it. And the best one was, I'm going to call the cops. You need to be drug tested, since no one acts like this. Gotta love the sass of middle-aged folk. Not being sarcastic, they really do have the best sass, and I love it. Oh, she never did call the cops, by the way. A few seconds after that, my manager comes over. Manager, what's wrong? How can I help? Martha, C1 made my pretzel like an idiot. It's raw, not the same color on the display, mushy, and doesn't look like the display. Manager, I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't make it look like the one on the photo. It's impossible. The company the pretzels come from edit the photo to look nice. Martha ranting on again on how her pretzel is and how it's false advertisement. I want my refund. Gimme it now. My manager gives her the refund, then tells her to have a nice day and enjoy her show. Martha runs into the theater, pushing people on the line to get into the shows, and we never saw her again. Oh yeah, we tried the pretzel after she gave it back. It was fine, and it was only mushy due to her mushing it with her own fingers. Yes, and if she went into a McDonald's and bought a sandwich, she'd expect that to look like the picture too? And our last story. Karen expects total stranger to babysit her child even after being told no. So this is a weird one. Not my story, but a friend who messaged me right after it happened to vent, because WTF. Karen equals entitled mother, SK equals sweet kid, Sarah equals my friend. So Karen moved into the apartment next to F's a couple of weeks ago. Karen has struck up a short, polite conversation with Sarah just 2 times in this period, with the second being yesterday, the day before this whole fiasco unfolded. This morning at about 9 a.m., while Sarah was having a nice Saturday breakfast, she gets up at 6 a.m. on weekdays, so this was a weekend lie-in for her, someone started aggressively banging on her front door. When Sarah answered, Karen was standing there with SK, 5-year-old girl, who had a little backpack on. Sounding very flustered, Karen said she was sorry to have to ask this with no notice, but could Sarah please watch SK for a few hours because Karen had somewhere really important to be. Now, something you need to understand about Sarah is that she has no idea how to deal with them. Sarah's also disabled. She uses a motorized wheelchair sometimes and a walking cane for short distances, or when she's just puttering around her own home. She lives with her girlfriend, who's also her carer. Her chronic illnesses involve fainting spells and a lot of brain fog, so by her own account, she's absolutely not someone who should be left in charge of a child. Karen has seen Sarah using both her wheelchair and her cane, and has seen F's girlfriend, who was at work when this all happened, helping her in and out of their car. So Sarah responded with a firm no, explaining that her medical conditions meant that SK would not be safe in her care and that she's not well enough to have any guests, let alone an unattended kid in her home anyway. Karen immediately flipped from pleading to simpering to hand-on-hip indignation at this point, accusing Sarah of faking her disabilities, because of course, if she can walk at all, then she obviously doesn't actually need a wheelchair, right? And threatened to report her to Centerlink Welfare if Sarah didn't watch SK for her. Never mind the fact that Sarah isn't on welfare, LOL. Her girlfriend has a high-paying job, and Sarah works somewhere between part-time and full-time hours from home most weeks. She's a GD machine, and I don't know how she manages it. Newsflash, not all disabled people are unable to work, although, of course, getting employers to actually hire us is another matter, because ableism. So Sarah basically said, I'm not on Centerlink, and I don't appreciate being blackmailed. Find another babysitter because I am not it, and closed her door. Karen kept banging on the door for a bit, but eventually left. About 20 minutes later, Sarah heard a very faint, timid tapping on her front door. She said if she hadn't been so close to it, she probably wouldn't have heard it. She sighed heavily, having kinda already guessed what was happening. She opened the door, and there was SK, who'd clearly been crying, clutching the shoulder straps of her little backpack. She said very softly, "Mommy said I could stay here today." So she said that SK was an absolute darling throughout the entire fiasco, and the most she ever did was cry because her mother's clearly a GD monster. Karen had driven off and sent SK to F's door, clearly thinking that if she left Sarah with no alternative, she'd just play along and babysit SK for her anyway, especially since Sarah had literally no way of contacting Karen. Wrong. Sarah escaped abusive parents at a young age, and this crap made her furious. She got SK settled in front of the TV with a drink and some snacks and called the police. "Yeah, my neighbor just abandoned her 5-year-old daughter outside of her apartment, and the kid showed up at my door asking to come in." When the officers arrived, Sarah told them the full story, and while they were appalled, she said they weren't surprised. One said, "You'd be shocked at how not rare this kind of thing is," which is honestly kind of the worst part of all this. The officers took SK with them and were really sweet with her, explaining to her that she wasn't in any trouble and had done the right thing, and that they were there to look after her and find out where her mommy had gone. Sarah found out later that they were able to contact SK's father, who's currently working on finalizing a divorce from Karen, and was also appalled, but not remotely surprised by what she'd done. Update. I messaged Sarah asking if she had any updates, and oh boy, that was an emphatic yes. This morning she had another knock on her door, only it was the dad with SK in tow. He went there to apologize for what his ex had done, and so he and SK could thank Sarah for looking after SK and for calling the police. She said he seemed like a good guy who was clearly putting his kid first in all this, which was really reassuring to her. He told Sarah that, according to his lawyer, her calling the police and handling everything the way she had would basically be a gift-wrapped custody battle win for him, because WTF kind of court would ever grant Karen custody after the crap she'd pulled. His lawyer was over the moon when the dad called him. Sometimes entitled people take the "it takes a village to raise a kid" phrase way too seriously. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.